Porco Rosso, directed by the legendary Hayao Miyazaki. The story takes place between World War I and II in Italy and on the Adriatic and its islands. It centers on waterplane pilots, and more specifically one Italian pilot named Marco, who was cursed to look like a pigman. He's a man mostly, but with the head of a pig, hence the name Porco. That's a pretty typical element of Studio Ghibli, by the way, of Studio Ghibli films, to have a story that is set in mostly realistic looking world, but includes magical or fantasy elements. Porco is an ace pilot. He's flying a super cool red plane and being a bounty hunter, chasing bandits around, and in between that, just enjoying simple life on his hidden island. One day, when he's off for vacation and repairs in Milan, he gets shot down by another ace pilot, Curtis. He's an American hired by the bandits to take down Porco. Porco manages to survive and get to Milan to his old mechanic friend in order to get a new plane and regain honor by beating Curtis one-on-one. But the friend recommends that his granddaughter oversees the project as a talented young engineer. Porco is initially discouraged by that idea, but eventually agrees and befriends the young Theo as they work together to get the pilot back in the game. So the film is very reminiscent of other Miyazaki films, such as Castle in the Sky, Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, and to a degree Princess Mononoke, in many respects. The art style is similar, but all of those films also have a similar narrative structure. What I mean is that they focus on relatively small-scale, character-driven story that is painted on this wider canvas of something grand that's happening almost in the background. And those grander events allow Miyazaki to include such subtle social commentary in his films. In this case, the grand thing that's going on the side is the rise of the fascist party in Italy and the looming threat of World War II, along with the slowly dying idea of personal freedom as personified by pilots and especially Porco. Porco himself is a World War I veteran as well, and through little glimpses and pieces of information from other characters, we learn more and more about him. There's also one terrific flashback sequence where Porco tells the story of an air battle. It's just stunning. Another thing that's similar to other Ghibli movies is the lack of villains. Yes, there are antagonists in the film, but they are circumstantial mostly. They're not evil by nature, just have interests that at certain points of time are at odds with the main character, and so they clash. But they're humanized. They're humanized to the extent that by the end of the film, you begin liking them as well, almost as much as you like Porco himself, because the characters are very human, so is the story ultimately, which the story is also pretty adult. Although it initially seemed like a children's cartoon, I think it is probably one of the more adult-oriented Ghibli films out of the ones I've seen so far, with the exception of maybe Grave of the Fireflies. The subtle character dynamics, the mysteriousness and sadness around Porco, the background war thing, the commentary on economic crisis in Italy and women laboring hard to provide for themselves in the absence of men, the unspoken romance subplot between Porco and Gina, I honestly loved all of it. And the film looks quite amazing too. In particular, the flight sequences and the way that wind and its effects on objects are animated, it's just nothing short of incredible. It really is a joy to watch. Finally, I'm a big fan of open endings, and so I loved the way Porco Rosso wraps the story up. It is somewhat unexpected, but very fitting when you think of the characters. And it's also pretty much completely open to the viewer. You can decide for yourself what happened in the end, and both, let's say, main interpretations will fit. I'll admit, I went into the film rather cautiously, knowing that it's about a pig pilot. I thought it would be way more childish, and I have to say I was pleasantly surprised in every single aspect. Great cinema.